there are only two animals on the planet that the Creator identified himself with. The first one is the eagle. The eagle. And the second animal is the lion. And when I identified those two animals as his favorite to identify himself with, I recognized I better study these two animals, because if he is the leader of the universe and I want to be a leader on earth, I better find out the nature of these animals and also the attitude of these animals. And I discovered that both of them are the kings of their domain. The eagle is the king of the bird kingdom, and the lion is the king of the animal kingdom. But let's talk a little bit about the lion. The lion has what I call the spirit of leadership. And this word spirit here is referring to attitude. Everybody say attitude. A leader has an attitude that makes him or her different from followers. Now, the lion is the king of the jungle, but the lion to me is a great source of encouragement to all of us. I want you to write this down. Remember this as long as you live. Number one, the lion is not the tallest animal in the jungle. Number two, the lion is not the largest animal in the jungle. Number three, the lion is not the heaviest animal in the jungle. Number four, the lion is not the smartest animal or the most intelligent animal in the jungle. And yet, when he shows up, they all run away. Well, here's one of my favorite quotes that I put in my books, and I believe it really brings home the point. An army of sheep led by a lion will always defeat an army of lions led by a sheep. And the answers to that dilemma is this: because leadership can transform cowards into violent warriors. The right kind of leadership can transform a timid into bold people who are fearless. Leadership is that powerful. Leadership can walk into a camp of depressed people, and in 20 minutes, they have turned on into unbelievable, powerful armies. Because leadership determines everything. The lion is the king of the jungle because of one word: attitude. Everybody say attitude. Write it down. Attitude. The lion has a different attitude that makes every animal afraid of him. Now, we don't want to lead by fear, but it does take respect for you to become a leader. When I use the word fear in the jungle, we're talking about respect. The elephant respects the lion. The hyenas respect the lion. The giraffes, they respect the lion. What makes these massive animals respect such a small cat? The attitude is the difference. For example, a lion will see an elephant, and the thing that comes to his mind, one word: lunch. I could eat this thing. And he acts the way he thinks. Now, here's another amazing mystery. The elephant is larger, bigger, stronger, more powerful, heavier, and more intelligent. And yet, when the elephant sees the lion, one word comes to mind: eater. Attitude is a product of belief. You cannot have an attitude beyond your belief. So your attitude comes from your belief system. The lion is the king because of what he believes about himself.
Well, I hope we got some value from that. So without much ado, let's go into our class for today. we started our discussion on bearing 2 lessons ago, and we looked at some rudiments. Then the last class, we tried some examples. We did some together. The second example, which I asked us to draw, and we did. So far, only one person sent her own to me, and she did a good job. So I will still expect that the other people, send theirs to me. So the other one I gave us as a class, as an assignment, is this. So I want us to carefully look at this together. Please, I would like for you guys to pay close attention. I want you to pay close attention. The question says, a boat sails 6 kilometers from Port X. And I mentioned to you guys that your starting point will always be the point where you see this word from. Wherever you see this word from is a starting point for you. You may see more than one from in the question, depending on the structure of the question. But the first from would be your starting point. So in this question now, our starting point will be a point X. So the boat sails 6 kilometers from Port X on a bearing of 065 degrees. So the set of information we have with that first statement is that the boat, the starting point is X. The distance it moved from that starting point to its first destination is 6 kilometers. And that first destination is on a bearing of 065 degrees. Then when it got to that first destination, its first destination, it sailed again 13 kilometers on a bearing of 136 degrees. That implies that from the first destination, it moved to a second destination. And the distance it moved again is 13 kilometers, and the boat traveled on a bearing of 136 degrees. The question says, what is the distance of the boat from X? Now, if we look at this question, we would have 3 points. The first one is our point X, which is the starting point. The second one is the first destination, which is 6 kilometers and 65 degrees from X. That's the first destination. So that's our second point, but it's the first destination of the boat. Then the third point will be the second destination. So after leaving, he got to the first destination. So he left that first destination and went to a second destination. And that second destination is 13 kilometers from the first destination. And it is on a bearing of 136 degrees. So the question says, what is the distance of the boat from X? So the distance they want us to calculate now is the distance between where the boat is now and X. You know, the boat started from point X. So they want us to find out where the boat is now, the distance between where it is now and point X. And you will recall that our point X was his first destination, was his origin, was where it took off from. So let me copy this and call up my whiteboard. All right. So this is the question. That's the question. A boat sails 6 kilometers from a point X on a bearing of 065 degrees, and thereafter 13 kilometers on a bearing of 136 degrees. What is the distance of the boat from X? So the first thing we'll do, as usual, I said we will draw our cardinal point. And our cardinal point, we will draw from our starting point. So this is our cardinal point. And when we draw our cardinal point, we'll always indicate our north. That's our north pole. And they told us that this starting point is point X. So we also indicate that this is our point X. So that's point X. So from this point X, the boat sails 6 kilometers on a bearing of 065 degrees. Now, we will start from the north and move 065 degrees. You know, 065 will be between 0 and 90. It won't get to 90. So we'll represent it with that, and we will draw a line so we will now assume that this distance is our 6 kilometers. So it got to this point. So this point now, we'll draw our cardinal point again. This is his first destination. This is his first destination. So let's call this destination, let's give it a name. Let's call this destination Y. Let's call it Y. Now the question says, okay, we need to label this angle. This angle is the bearing through which it travels. So this angle will be 65 degrees. This angle will be 65 degrees. So that's 65 degrees. Now, the question says from this point now, it traveled another 13 kilometers, but this time around on a bearing of 136 degrees. On a bearing of 136 degrees. Now, this is our new north now. This place is our new north. This place is our new north now. So from this, our new north, we will now measure 136 degrees. You see, if we want to measure 136 degrees, we will go from north, we'll get to the east, that's 90. It is more than 90, but it is less than 180. So we'll move from here. This is 90. So, but our 136 is more than 90, but it's less than 180. So we just do something like that. Uh-oh. Sorry about that. All right. So we'll move from this place now, we'll move, this is 90, but 90, our 136 is greater than 90, but it's less than 360. So let's assume that's our 136. Then we'll draw another line. So this will now be the second destination. Sorry, we got these ones wrong. We said this is our N. Then we said this is our point X. Then we said this is 6 kilometers. Then we said this our angle is 65 degrees. So this angle now, the whole of this angle now is 136 degrees. 136 degrees. Then this distance we were given is 13 kilometers. So I hope what I have done so far is making sense to us. Now, this is the second destination. Now, when we get to the end of the journey, he has gotten to the end of the journey. What you now do is you will draw a line to join this point to the starting point so that we can complete our triangle. So we can arbitrarily name this point. We can name it point Z. We can name it point Z. I hope this diagram makes sense to us. So if we look at this diagram very properly, very well, now we will need the knowledge of what I call angles between parallel lines. Angles between parallel lines. Now watch me, watch my cursor. Now this angle, first of all, this line, this cardinal point line, this one and this one, they are parallel to each other. This one and this one are parallel to each other. So let me just draw it here. It's like having something like this. Sorry, let me use it. It's like having something like this and this. Now, if you now draw a straight line in between them, the two lines are parallel. If you draw a straight line between them, they will form what is referred to as Z angles. Look at this angle and this angle. They are like angles in the elbows of the Z. For instance, if you have something like this angle and this angle, or if you have something like this angle and this angle, because this line is parallel to this line is parallel to this line. So this angle will be equal to this angle. This angle will be equal to this angle. And those angles are referred to as alternate angles. Alternate angles are equal. So from this diagram now, and the little explanation I have made here, this 65 degrees that we have here, the 65 degrees that we have here, if we look at this line and this line is a straight line between them. So this 65 degrees will be the same thing as this angle. So that this angle will also be 65 degrees. 65 degrees. That angle will be 65 degrees. Then, if you look at this straight line, if we had moved from here to this line, it would have been 180 degrees. But we didn't move up to that line. We only moved 136 degrees. So to get the value of this small angle, what we do is we will subtract this from 180 degrees. So if we subtract 136 from 180 degrees, we will get 44 degrees. We will get 44 degrees. So this small angle will be 44 degrees. So in total, the whole of this angle will be 109 degrees. 109 degrees. Now, so if you look at this triangle, if you look at our drawing now, we know two sides. We know this to be 6 kilometers. We know this to be 13 kilometers. And we know this angle to be 109 degrees. Now, we want to find, let's say this side is small letter, is facing angle Y, so we call it small letter Y. Now, what is the relationship? If you look at the two sides that we have, the two sides we have and the angle that we have, if you recall, when I was talking to you about conditions under which you can use either sine rule or cosine rule, I mentioned something about included and non-included angle. Now, if you look at this diagram now, look at these two sides that we have and look at this angle. What can you say about their relationship? You will discover that this angle is an included angle between these two sides. And if you have two sides and an included angle, the only logical rule for you to use is cosine rule. The only logical rule for you to use is cosine rule. So I hope that is making sense to us. So if we I can switch my screen back so that we can go to, you can see exactly what we have drawn together is this diagram. So how do we solve it? If we move on, we'll say, since we know two sides and an included angle, we will use cosine rule to solve for the required distance, which is small letter x. Sorry, small letter y. So cosine rule states that this is the side we want to find, y. So cosine rule states that the square of this, y squared, will be equal to 13 squared plus 6 squared minus 2 times 6 times 13 times cosine of 109 degrees. So that's what we have here. Y squared will be equal to 13 squared plus 6 squared minus 2 multiplied by 13 multiplied by 6 multiplied by cos 109 degrees. So if you use your calculator to get cos 109 degrees, cos 109 degrees will give you negative 0.3256. So 13 squared is 169, 6 squared is 36, then 2 multiplied by 13 multiplied by 6 will give us 156. Then cos 109 degrees will give us 0.3256. Now look at this. This is a negative sign. This is a negative sign. So the negative multiplies the negative so that you will have a positive. So it becomes a positive. So if you solve for this, 156 multiplied by 0.3256, you will have 50.7886. So add 50.7886 to 205, you get 255.7886. That is y squared. And if you have y squared to be 255.7886, your y will be the square root. You take the square root of both sides so that your y will be the square root of 255.7886. So if you find the square root of that, you get 15.9934. So the distance we are asked to find, which is the distance of the boat where it is currently from X, is 16 kilometers to the nearest kilometers.